Hi, my name is Faith, and I am Jonah Prio's wife. And I just wanted to share a little letter. Okay, it's kind of a long letter, but it's just written to TBH to say thank you for all that you guys have done to help rebuild confidence in my husband and thereby building confidence in me. So, dear TBH, I wanted to reach out and say a heartfelt thank you for all that you have done to impact our family this past 6 months. Years of trying to have a family, walking through grief and loss on top of the already big marital struggles that we were dealing with, left us in a sad and lonely place. I've always loved my husband deeply and seen him as my best friend, but things had gotten to the place in our marriage where I felt pretty hopeless. Like we would have to live in a broken marriage for the rest of our lives. I had grown used to our marriage being absolutely amazing for a couple months at a time, and then hitting rock bottom when certain emotional topics came up for us. I began to think that would just be the way that marriage was for us. Like I could never settle into it safely. I'd see thriving marriages and feel like such an utter failure of a wife. Because of our unique wounds and the pain we'd inflict on each other, I didn't see how we could ever get out of the horrible cycle that we were in. I was far from the wife that I had always wanted to be, and the woman he reflected back to me in our worst arguments was a woman that I loathed and absolutely hated. If the closest person on earth to me saw me that poorly, then I must not be worth much as a wife. Sorry. My confidence in every area of life began to suffer. No one knew what was going on because I didn't feel I could tell anyone, but I began to hate myself as a wife. And then one day my husband comes back from a time away and something was different. I could see it in his eyes. He took me to the park with our son, and after a sweet time there, he looked me in the eyes and began to weep. He told me he didn't blame me for wanting to leave him, because if he'd been me, he would have wanted to leave too. He began to apologize with 100% ownership. To be honest, at first that made me very uncomfortable. I needed him to know I fully knew it was 50-50. I had been horrible to his heart as well. But he continued to take the entire ownership upon his shoulders. And I found this crazy response rise up within me. I began to see him as such a strong man, and I felt like such a cared for woman in that moment. Safety has been my need and cry all these years. The safety of knowing our marriage was protected. Because I desperately loved this man the moment we met, if I'm honest. And in that moment at the park, he began to give me that safety I had always longed for. I was scared in the coming weeks that the change wouldn't last. Terrified, to be honest, that we'd sink back into our old patterns. But instead, found more and more of this deeper change. We'd have moments of arguing, but this time, instead of him unleashing hurt, he'd back away and say he needed to go deal with some things and that he'd be back. Then he'd come back and he'd apologize for letting past hurts color our disagreements. Every single time he responded this way, it brought felt safety into our marriage for me. That in turn gave me the strength to begin to open myself up more fully to him again. Things not only changed for the good in him, but as he began to change, I found myself becoming the wife I'd always longed to be. Even without years of counseling, I found myself healing in deep ways. I began to not only not hate myself as a wife, but I began to find love for myself again. Whew. I began to feel beautiful in his eyes again, and my confidence in all areas has grown. He began to tell me more and more what an amazing wife I was. It took months to even begin to believe him, even just a tiny bit. I'm still growing in this, but I'm learning to trust what he is saying. I am healing even as he is healing. I am so grateful to God for leading us steps to y'all's group. What a gift that will impact generations in our family line. I felt pretty debilitating fear for years, having suffered so much loss and grief over 5 miscarriages and the loss of our 20-month-old son. Fear felt all too familiar. On a drive the other night with Jonah and our son Miles, I realized it had been a while since I had been overcome by fearful thoughts. I was shocked. I had been plagued by them for years, never feeling safe. As our marriage began to heal and Jonah began to offer me that feeling of safety, the fear began to just leave. He also told me recently he's been praying for the fear to leave, and it is working. I'm beginning to experience deep personal freedom emotionally, even as my husband continues his emotional healing. I have seen Jonah pacing our backyard as he talks to one of his guys, and I see his confidence building, and I am so beyond proud of him. I know how hard his confidence has been hit in his life, especially around men. Here he is fitting into a tribe of men, all after the same thing, healing for themselves, healing for their families. I am proud of every single one of you men. I imagine what this world would look like if all men were as brave as each one of you. I will leave y'all with this. Keep doing the work. You may not think it's making a difference, but it absolutely is. You never know when your personal healing will help start the ripple of healing within every member of your family. I simply could not ever say how deeply grateful I am for TBH. God 100% led my husband to the right place at just the right time. Yes, for what it's worth, I think my husband, and he's going to be embarrassed I'm saying this, would make one heck of an emotional work kind of guy, whatever you call them. I know little since it's all top secret guy stuff. But seriously, I've seen him come alive every time he comes home and he says he talked to one of his guys. He is thriving, and when he thrives, we all thrive. Much love to you all. Faith. Thank you guys for listening. I am so incredibly thankful. And there are no words for how thankful I am for all that y'all have done and all that y'all have influenced. The fact that I can sit here in my big old glasses, my hair a mess, greasy face, and feel somewhat confident enough to record this video is proof that God has done a lot of healing and that I don't have to hide who I am and that I can be more authentically me again. Y'all have given that gift to our family, to my husband, to me, and to our son, and all of our future children. And even our families, our extended family. So I just am so grateful. And I thank y'all. Keep doing the work, because your wives, regardless of what happens, your wives will benefit. Your children will benefit when you get healed.